Commander Jack Harrison stood at the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, his eyes fixed on the strange vessel approaching through the void. Its organic curves and crimson hull set it apart from any ship he'd encountered in his 15 years of space service. "Unknown vessel, this is Lunar Base Alpha. Please identify yourself," he broadcast, following first contact protocols. The response came not in words but in a burst of desperate energy signatures that made the base's sensors scream. "Life support critical," the AI announced. "Detecting single occupant. Biological readings, inconclusive." Jack made his decision. "Initialize emergency docking procedures. Alert medical." The ship's docking was graceful despite its apparent distress. As the airlock cycled, Jack rushed down with a medical team. The inner door opened to reveal a sight that stopped them all cold. She looked almost human, but her pale skin had an otherworldly sheen. Crimson eyes flickered beneath half-closed lids, and delicate patterns traced her skin like frozen lightning. She collapsed forward, and Jack caught her before she hit the deck. "I am Arya," she whispered, her voice carrying strange harmonics. "Princess of the Hamoverian Empire. Please, help me." In Medical Bay, Dr. Maya Rodriguez struggled to make sense of Arya's readings. "These cellular structures. I've never seen anything like them. Her entire biology seems based on processing blood, but not like any earthly organism." "My people," Arya managed, her voice weak, "we require sustenance. Our synthesizers failed. Weeks without." Jack watched her vital signs fluctuate wildly on the monitors. "You need blood to survive?" "Yes," she admitted, shame crossing her elegant features. "We evolved as energy vampires, feeding on the life force in blood. We developed synthesis technology to avoid predation. But now—" "How long?" Jack demanded. "Hours," Dr. Rodriguez answered for her. "Her cellular degradation is accelerating. Can we synthesize what she needs?" "Not in time. The molecular structure is too complex." Jack looked at Arya, seeing not a monster but a dying being who had crossed the stars seeking help. He began rolling up his sleeve. "Commander," Dr. Rodriguez protested, "we have no idea how human blood will interact with her system. It could kill her." "It's her only chance," he countered. He turned to Arya. "Will human blood work?" Her crimson eyes widened. "It might. But the risk, to both of us." "I'm making it an order," Jack said firmly. "Do it." The moment Arya's fangs pierced his skin, Jack felt something extraordinary. Energy surged between them, and the medical bay's lights flickered. Through the connection, he caught flashes of her memories, crystal cities on distant worlds, vast ships sailing between stars, and an ancient civilization fighting for survival. But something else was happening. Where their blood mingled, both their skins began to glow with matching patterns. Arya gasped, her eyes shifting color, taking on flecks of human brown. "Impossible," she breathed. "The prophecy, after all these millennia." Before she could explain, alarms blared throughout the base. "Multiple ships detected," the AI announced. "Hamoverian vessels on approach." Jack helped Arya sit up, noticing how the patterns on their skin pulsed in sync. "Friends of yours?" "The Imperial Guard," she said, fear and wonder mixing in her voice. "They're coming for both of us now. What we've done, it changes everything." Through their new bond, Jack felt the truth of her words. Their simple act of trust had set in motion events that would reshape two civilizations. The question was, would those civilizations survive what was coming? Base alerts continued to sound as the Hamoverian ships drew closer. Whatever happened next, Jack knew his decision to help Arya had crossed a point of no return. Humanity's first contact with vampire kind would either lead to a remarkable alliance or spark an interstellar war. And through it all, the patterns on their skin continued to pulse, telling a story even they didn't yet understand. The Imperial Guard ships hung in lunar orbit like crimson daggers. Through the reinforced windows of the quarantine chamber, Jack watched them while absently tracing the glowing patterns that now marked his skin. "They're afraid," Arya said, sensing his thoughts through their strengthening bond. She sat cross-legged on the medical bed, her transformed eyes reflecting starlight. "What's happening between us was forbidden millennia ago." Dr. Rodriguez studied the latest scan results, her dark eyes widening. "Your cellular structures are synchronizing. Commander, your DNA is showing signs of adaptation, incorporating elements of Hamoverian biology. And Princess Arya, your system is stabilizing in ways that shouldn't be possible with human blood." "The forbidden synthesis," Arya whispered. "There were legends, but we thought they were just stories to frighten children. Tales of vampires who joined with their prey, becoming something new." The chamber's comm system crackled. "Commander Harrison," a new voice spoke, resonant with authority. "I am High Inquisitor Vex of the Hamoverian Empire. Release the princess immediately. This violation of our most sacred laws cannot be allowed to continue." Jack felt Arya's fear spike through their bond. "What aren't you telling me about these laws?" "Our empire was built on separation," she explained, the patterns on her skin pulsing with emotion. "Pure bloodlines, controlled feeding through synthesis. The idea that we could bond with our prey, share blood as equals, it threatens everything our society is built upon. Lunar Base Alpha, you have 1 hour to surrender the princess," Vex announced. "After that, we will be forced to take action." Dr. Rodriguez checked the latest readings. "Whatever's happening between you two, it's accelerating. The energy signatures are off the charts, and they're somehow resonating with each other." Through their connection, Jack felt something stirring in Arya's blood, ancient memories awakening. He saw vast armies of hybrid beings, wielding powers that combined vampire strength with human adaptability. He saw why the Hamoverian Empire had chosen isolation and synthetic blood, not to protect others, but to prevent this very evolution. "They'll kill us both," Arya said softly. "The Empire cannot allow proof that coexistence is possible. That we're stronger together than apart." Jack's hand found hers, their matching patterns flaring at the contact. "Then we'll have to prove it to them." The base's AI interrupted with new alerts. Multiple transport signatures detected. Imperial forces attempting to breach secondary airlocks. "Commander," Dr. Rodriguez warned, "if they take her now, the separation could kill you both. The biological integration has gone too far." Jack activated the base-wide comm. "This is Commander Harrison to all personnel. We have a Code Omega situation. Execute Protocol 7 immediately." He turned to Arya. "That'll seal off this section and give us time." "Time for what?" she asked, though through their bond she was already sensing his plan. "Time to complete whatever this is," he said, rolling up his sleeve again. "They're afraid of our bond? Let's show them exactly why." Arya's transformed eyes widened. "Jack, a second exchange, there's no record of what could happen. The changes could be irreversible. Look at their ships, their numbers. We're out of options." He offered his wrist. "I trust you." The moment their blood mingled again, the quarantine chamber erupted with energy. The patterns on their skin blazed like starfire, and through their bond, Jack felt their consciousness merging deeper than before. Memories, abilities, strengths flowed between them. Through the windows, they saw the Imperial ships reacting to the energy surge. New alarms blared as the vessels charged weapons. "Commander," the AI warned, "they're powering up something massive. Energy readings exceed anything in our database." But Jack and Arya barely heard the warning. Through their enhanced bond, they were discovering what the Empire had feared for so long, the true potential of their combined species. Their matched patterns weren't just decorative, they were channels for something greater. "I understand now," Arya whispered, her voice carrying new harmonics. "Why they feared this so much. We're not just sharing blood. We're evolving," Jack finished, feeling the changes race through both their bodies. Together. The chamber filled with blinding light as their transformation reached its peak. Outside, the Imperial ships opened fire, but their energy weapons found no purchase against the barrier of power now surrounding the base. The time for hiding in darkness was over. The true age of human-vampire cooperation was about to begin, whether the Empire was ready or not. The energy barrier surrounding Lunar Base Alpha pulsed with impossible patterns, matching the luminescent marks that now covered Jack and Arya's skin. Outside, the Imperial fleet's weapons fire dissipated harmlessly against their shared power. High Inquisitor Vex's voice crackled through the calm, tinged with desperation. "Princess Arya, your transformation must be stopped. You don't understand what you're awakening." But through their enhanced bond, they understood perfectly. Ancient memories surfaced in their shared consciousness, the true history of the Hamoverian Empire, carefully buried beneath millennia of lies. "We weren't always separate," Arya broadcasted, her voice carrying harmonics that made the base's structure vibrate. "Humans weren't prey. They were partners." Dr. Rodriguez monitored their readings with growing amazement. "The energy you're generating, it's creating quantum entanglement between your cellular structures. You're literally becoming synchronized on a subatomic level." Jack felt it. Every heartbeat, every breath aligned perfectly with Arya's. Their thoughts flowed together like mixing streams, separate but harmonious. Through their connection, he accessed knowledge of Hamoverian technology, while she gained understanding of human adaptability and innovation. The Empire built itself on the myth of superiority, Arya continued, memories of ancient archives unfolding in their shared mind. "But our greatest achievements came from cooperation. The first synthesis created beings who could bridge the gap between our species. The Imperial ships adjusted formation, bringing more weapons to bear. This heresy ends now," Vex declared. "The purity of our blood must be maintained." Through their bond, Jack sensed movement in the base's sealed corridors. "Imperial strike teams," he warned. "They're using the attack as cover to infiltrate." But they were ready. Their shared consciousness extended through the base's systems, combining Hamoverian energy manipulation with human digital expertise. Security barriers shifted and reformed, trapping the infiltrators. "Commander," the base AI reported, "more ships approaching. But, these energy signatures are different." Through the observation windows, they watched as new vessels emerged from hyperspace. Unlike the angular Imperial ships, these were organic curves of living crystal, pulsing with familiar patterns. "The Sanctuary Fleet," Arya breathed. They survived. Memories crystallized in their shared consciousness, a rebel faction of Hamoverians who had preserved the truth, waiting for the day the first synthesis would return. Their ships moved to intercept the Imperial fleet, ancient weapons powering up. "Your empire is built on lies, Inquisitor," Jack broadcasted. "How many of your people are tired of synthetic blood? How many sense that something is missing?" The patterns covering their skin began to shift, forming new configurations. Through their bond, they felt others awakening, humans and Hamoverians across the base, resonating with their energy. The barrier they generated wasn't just defensive, it was transformative. "The change cannot be stopped," Arya declared. "We are the bridge between species, just as our ancestors were. The time of separation is over." Emergency alerts blared throughout the Imperial fleet as their crews began to transform. The carefully maintained hybrid suppression was breaking down, awakening ancient genetic memories. This is what they feared, Jack realized, watching through transformed eyes as the Imperial ship's energy signatures fluctuated. "Not that we'd destroy them, but that we'd remind them of what they once were," Arya finished. "What we can be again." Dr. Rodriguez's instruments overloaded as new energy patterns cascaded through the base. The barrier they'd generated was spreading, a wave of awakening that couldn't be contained. High Inquisitor Vex's next transmission was strained, fighting against the change. "You don't understand, the prophecy, if the synthesis returns." "We understand perfectly," they responded in unison, their shared consciousness expanding. "The question is, do you remember why your ancestors feared it so much?" The truth pulsed through their bond, not of weakness or corruption, but of power too great to control. The first synthesis hadn't been forbidden to protect the Empire. It had been forbidden because it made everyone equal, erasing the hierarchies the Empire depended on. And now that truth was spreading, one awakening at a time, throughout the fleet. The Imperial fleet fractured in chaos as the wave of transformation spread. Through their enhanced senses, Jack and Arya watched crew members awaken to ancient memories, their suppressed hybrid potential emerging after millennia of dormancy. High Inquisitor Vex's final transmission cut off mid-sentence as his flagship systems went dark. The massive vessel drifted, its crew caught in the throes of change. But not everyone welcomed the awakening. Multiple escape pods detected, the base AI reported. Loyalist forces retreating to secondary vessels. They're activating some kind of countermeasure. A pulse of sickly green energy erupted from the remaining Imperial ships. Where it touched the transformation wave, it created zones of null space, dead zones where the awakening couldn't reach. The suppression protocol, Arya realized, ancient knowledge surfacing through their bond. Weaponized synthetic blood, designed to force regression. They'd rather die pure than live transformed. The Sanctuary fleet engaged the Loyalist ships, their crystal vessels flowing like liquid light between the energy bursts. But the Imperial forces had numbers and desperation on their side. Commander Harrison, a new voice cut through the chaos. "This is Admiral Chen of Earth Defense Command. Our sensors detect an unauthorized transformation event at Lunar Base Alpha. You are ordered to stand down immediately." Jack felt Arya's concern spike through their bond. Humanity wasn't ready for this evolution either. "Admiral," he responded, "what's happening here transcends military authority. We're on the brink of something extraordinary. We're detecting biological changes in your personnel, Commander. Changes that constitute a potential threat to Earth security. If you don't reverse this process, we'll be forced to quarantine the entire base." Through their shared consciousness, Jack and Arya reached out to the transformed crew members. Each one had become a node in a growing network of hybrid awareness. They weren't losing their humanity, they were expanding it, combining the best aspects of both species. "They're afraid," Dr. Rodriguez observed, her own skin beginning to show traces of luminescent patterns. "Just like the Empire. Fear of change, fear of losing control." The lunar surface lit up as Earth defense platforms activated, their weapons locking onto both the base and the warring alien fleets. Humanity was choosing sides in a conflict they barely understood. But through their deepening bond, Jack and Arya saw another way. The patterns on their skin shifted, forming new configurations that hadn't existed since the first synthesis. They weren't just sharing blood anymore, they were rewriting the rules of what both species could become. "We need to show them," Arya said, her transformed eyes meeting Jack's. "Not tell them. Show them." Understanding flowed through their connection. The hybrid energy they generated wasn't just a weapon or a shield. It was a bridge, a key to unlocking potential that had been buried in both species' DNA. Together, they began to channel their power differently. Instead of pushing outward, they pulled inward, creating a resonance that called to something deep in human and Hamovarian genes alike. The patterns on their skin blazed with new purpose. "What are you doing?" Admiral Chen demanded as the energy signature changed. Offering a choice, they answered in unison. The same choice our ancestors faced. Evolution or isolation. Growth or stagnation. Fear or understanding? The transformation wave shifted, becoming an invitation rather than a force. Through it, every human and Hemovarian in range could glimpse the potential of unity, could feel the hollow emptiness of artificial separation. One by one, the Earth defense platforms powered down. The remaining Imperial ships stopped firing. In the silence of space, two civilizations stood on the brink of their greatest change, and their greatest challenge. Space around the moon had become a crucible of change. The transformation wave hung suspended between Earth and the scattered fleets, a shimmering curtain of possibility that waited for choice rather than forcing it. Through their hybrid bond, Jack and Arya felt every mind touched by their power, human and Hemovarian alike, wrestling with the truth they offered. The lies of separation were crumbling, but fear still held many in its grip. The synthetic blood was never about survival, Arya broadcasted, sharing ancient memories through the resonance field. It was about control. About keeping us from discovering what we could become together. High Inquisitor Vex's flagship stirred, its systems reactivating. But the voice that came through was changed, harmonics shifting between human and Hemovarian tones. The first synthesis. I remember now. We were guardians, not predators. Partners, not parasites. The remaining Imperial loyalists launched a final desperate attack, their weapons charged with concentrated synthetic blood. But where their suppression beams struck the transformed ships, they found something unexpected: perfect balance. The hybrid biology they'd created wasn't vulnerable to forced regression. It was stable, sustainable, and spreading. Earth Defense Command's silence broke with Admiral Chen's transformed voice. Commander Harrison, Princess Arya, the changes you've triggered, they're not just biological. They're awakening something in our collective memory. Something we forgot long ago. The patterns on Jack and Arya's skin shifted again, forming ancient symbols that told a story older than either civilization. Through their bond, they understood at last. The separation of their species had never been natural, it had been engineered, designed to prevent them from reclaiming their shared heritage. We were one people, they declared together, their unified consciousness reaching out to all who could hear. Before the Empire, before the synthetic blood, before the lies of superiority and prey. And we can be again. The transformation wave pulsed with new purpose, carrying not just the potential for physical change, but the weight of restored truth. In its light, the remaining Imperial ships powered down their weapons. Earth defense platforms shifted from combat to observation mode. Dr. Rodriguez, her own transformation now complete, monitored the cascade of awakenings spreading through both fleets. The hybrid genetics, they're not random mutations. They're activating dormant sequences that existed in both species all along. We didn't just evolve separately, we were deliberately divided. The Sanctuary fleet moved into formation around Lunar Base Alpha, their crystal ships resonating with the same patterns that marked the transformed. From their holds emerged more awakened ones, Hemovarians who had preserved the truth through millennia of hiding. The time of separation is over, Arya declared, her transformed eyes meeting Jack's. But the choice must be free. We won't repeat the Empire's mistake of forcing one way of life on all. Through their bond, they reshaped the transformation wave one final time. Instead of a tide of change, it became a standing offer, a gateway to hybrid potential that each individual could choose to accept or reject. The response was beyond anything they had hoped. Ship by ship, crew by crew, the truth spread. The lie of necessary separation crumbled in the face of living proof that another way was possible. Even those who chose to remain unchanged could no longer deny the evidence before them. What happens now? Admiral Chen asked, speaking for both species. Jack and Arya stood together, their matched patterns telling the story of two peoples becoming one again. Now, they answered, we remember who we were. And we discover who we can become. The hybrid energy field stabilized into permanent resonance points around Earth and the Moon, gateways of transformation for those who sought it, monuments to possibility for those who didn't. The age of synthetic blood and forced separation was over. In its place, a new civilization was being born, one that honored both its human and Hamoverian heritage. Not through conquest or submission, but through the simplest and most powerful of acts, the choice to help someone in need, to trust across the boundaries of species, to believe in the possibility of something greater than the sum of its parts. The stars beckoned, and for the first time in millennia, they would face them together.